Thank you so much. So for some of you who know or don't know, but Reverie is the first LGBTQ queer TV 24/7 streaming and on-demand network. We have had some, let me just go over here. We've had some really great success in the 4 years since we had the concept and actually been in market for 3.5 years. We're currently available in over 90 million plus homes and devices, and we have successfully streamed over 63 million minutes of content. Reverie's ecosystem spans not just our direct-to-consumer apps, but also our live linear channels. Currently, we're on Comcast, Xumo, Zapping, on Pluto TV. We're launching TiVo, Viewed, Metro, Logic, Samsung Plus, and we're coming to over 8 new linear environments. These are like virtual cable, essentially mimicking the same thing that you have with your cable box at home, no matter where you live in the world. The difference is now it's all being delivered via apps or technologies like smart sets like Samsung Television. We also have our direct-to-consumer apps, which are a hybrid ad video on demand / subscription video on demand product. On our apps, you can see the same 24-hour live television feed in our new feature, Reverie Live TV, which I'm very proud we just launched a couple of weeks ago. And you can watch all of our content over 1,000 hours for free in front of the paywall, or you can subscribe with no commercials. The real difference with Reverie is that we are inherently an identity-driven brand. You know, just like being a consumer of Whole Foods or Tom's or any of these types of brands that say something about who you are as an identity, Reverie follows a very similar kind of pathway. We're organically cause and mission-driven just by virtue of being LGBTQ. And we've been recognized as thought leaders in the space of streaming by major media outlets. Again, within our ecosystem, you can not just find films and TV shows, but you can actually find podcasts and music videos and short films and digital series, all different formats and all different genres of content that truly reflect the authentic identity of the LGBTQ consumer. We're working with major brands like Disney and Lexus and Gilead and Dollar Shave Club, Tourism Spain, Tourism Montreal. We work with so many different brands to bring them, obviously, opportunity in this growing and scaling market. Now, I want to talk about the market because there's a lot of misconceptions about LGBTQ. We actually don't even say LGBTQ anymore. We say queer, because queer is more encompassing. You can be an ally and you can be part of the queer community. But let's look at the generations. When we look at Gen X, age 39 to 59, 13%, identify as LGBTQ. Whereas 1 in 5 millennials hard identify as LGBTQ. And millennials now make up over 55% of global consumer purchasing power. That's a big demo. And then Gen Z, over 31% will identify as LGBTQ. And 52% will not declare a gender, sexual orientation, looking for them a community somewhere on the queer spectrum. Now, if we look about the actual global consumer purchasing power of this single segment, right? In the US alone, we spend over $917 billion in disposable income, 4.3 trillion globally, not a small market. And obviously, we are seeing the popularity of this type of content through mainstream media. You know, RuPaul's Drag Race, 9 Emmy wins, Queer Eye, Love, Simon actually being turned into a series now for Disney Streaming Plus. This is telling you, obviously, that if major studios and brands are embracing queer content like this, there's an opportunity and there's a market in the mainstream. And it's not just LGBTQ audiences. There are allied audiences who are now watching and consuming queer content. Now, I am one of 4 co-founders, and I'm proud to say this. We are actually 75% people of color founded. Chris is Latino, and 50% women of color founded, and we're all equal co-founders. Chris is an attorney, he used to be the attorney, actually, fun fact, for Shark Tank. He quit that job to start this. Leah is also an attorney. She was named Rising Star by Super Lawyers 5 years in a row in Los Angeles. And LaShawn is a U.S. vet on top of an AFI graduate. Now, myself, I'm the oddball out. I like to say I'm a little unique because I'm Canadian and American. I'm a dual citizen. And my background, obviously, I've worked with big companies like Chevy, Cadillac, and YouTube. We've had some really big milestones this year. During Pride Month in June, we were named App of the Day by Apple App Store. This was a huge honor. And actually, right now, if you have the Apple TV and you go to Apps We Love, we're still being featured 3 months later. We were on the cover of the LA Times business section as a recognized thought leader in the space. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was named one of the top 16 power players in the ad video on demand space by Business Insider, alongside Snapchat, Facebook, and execs from Twitter and so on. So I'm very excited, obviously, to talk about how this is not a niche, just kind of echoing what Kate was talking about earlier. And if we can, we're going to roll the clip to see a little bit of the content that you can experience on our apps and our channels. Thank you so much.
Very cool. Well, it's interesting, you know, Damien talked about the purchasing power of this group, but there's also a political power in this group, which maybe we'll get into later. It's a very interesting time, of course, to have political power that isn't just a niche. Yeah. All right. So our next speaker, so thank you. Our next speaker is Weerada Sucharitkul. Did I get close? Hey, close. She's the CEO and co-founder of something called FilmDoo in the UK. How many people have heard of FilmDoo? Few hands. Good, good. Well done. She's going to tell you a lot about it, so I won't go into what FilmDoo is about. But what's interesting about it, I think, is they've started in one place and they're sort of transitioning a little bit. So she'll tell you, I think, a little bit about their journey on that. And that's an interesting story. Again, thinking about niche, or maybe not so niche, VOD, and how you need to think about your audience, how you need to attract your audience, and how do you engage and retain your audience. So I think she's been doing some deep thinking on that in terms of their company. She found, I think it was I've lost the date, 2015 it was founded, yes? 2015 it was founded. So she's been at this for a while. She's a very interesting young woman, so please join me in welcoming Weerada. Okay.
Are we showing the video first?
You want to show the video first? Yes, please roll the video and then we'll bring her up. Yeah. Good.
FilmDoo allows you to discover thousands of movies from around the world while supporting the actual filmmaker who created the film. Hi, I'm Weerada. I'm the CEO and co-founder of FilmDoo. Today, we describe FilmDoo as an edutainment platform that helps people to learn languages and explore cultures through film. So how did we start? Launched in 2015, the vision was to be a platform to help people discover great films from around the world. We now have one of the biggest foreign language films catalog online. In the UK, we're the #1 platform for French, Japanese, Chinese, Russian, Arabic, and Southeast Asian films. This was essentially the problem we were trying to solve. 50,000 films get made around the world every year, but so few ever get distribution outside of their own country. Many of them are festival award-winning films. The reason is due to a traditional film distribution system that predates the internet. We saw an opportunity to bring innovative technology to help people discover these films, to create and ultimately discover and bring new audiences to these films. So these are some of the award-winning titles that we now distribute on FilmDoo. Many, I'm very proud to say, we are the first to bring outside the country. The vision for FilmDoo is to help bring these underrepresented stories and voices to be heard and seen to a global audiences. Many of these are first-time directors, LGBT directors, female directors, young filmmakers from Africa, Latin America. All these stories deserve to be seen and heard, and we want to make that happen. What was interesting, though, is that by having one of the world's biggest foreign language film catalog, something very interesting happened. And this is all about looking at your customer audiences and embracing the opportunity as they came. Around last summer, we started noticing that actually 80% of our traffic was coming from language-related searches. Where can I watch French film? Hey, I'm learning Japanese. Hi, I just moved to Thailand. Where can I learn Thai and watch Thai films? That was really interesting. This also resonated with the fact that 72% of our audiences is between 18 and 34 years old, which is quite a big difference between all the other English language platforms showing foreign language films. But now it all made sense. These were people coming to FilmDoo because they were learning languages. They were university students, young expats, dating, marrying, starting families from a multicultural background. But what's great is that these films, this content, they're discovering a new kind of audiences. People who are coming to see these films because they're interested in language or cultural interests. And what's great is that they're not just interested in new films, they're also interested in old and back catalog, creating even greater opportunities to help your film seen and monetized around the world. And what's even more interesting is that actually, the more we looked into this, films and audiovisual work is a great opportunity to help the language learning industry. Across the board, 90% of people drop out when they use language learning apps or language learning online. Why? Because it's boring, right? You know, you're doing flashcards of vocabulary games all the time. But what do people do anyway, most days and since they were young? They watch films, they watch content, because it's fun, it's entertaining, it's more natural, and that's the way that language is actually spoken. So this is where we are now. I'm proud to say we've just launched a new feature on top of our platform, which is an edutainment platform. It allows language teachers to come in and create courses off the back of the film in which they can use for their students in class or offline. Again, while watching a film, students in the class or in the family can play games, can play flashcards with the words that's used in the film. We even have an interesting, innovative machine learning algorithm, very proprietary, that recommends films based on your language level. So this creates retention and interest in learning languages, but also in understanding the film. And of course, as you know, films is just a great way to learn languages and be interested in the culture and to stay engaged with that content. Ultimately, we're at an exciting time. We're at the peak of a new revolution because learners now expect to be entertained. But at the same time, when you're watching content, these viewers, they also want to be educated. It's all about the edutainment revolution, and I'm really excited that working with filmmakers, content creators around the world, we can really be pioneering the edutainment revolution, helping people to learn languages and discover great films at the same time. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Cool, thank you, Weerada, that was cool. And what's interesting about it is, again, this pivot that we'll talk about, she doesn't call it a pivot, but the changing and getting the edutainment part and not just the film part, and basically marrying two loves and making something bigger and better, hopefully, and that's wonderful. Our last speaker, before we have our little discussion, is Andreas Vogel. He's the CEO and sole shareholder of the Potsdam-based I call it Film Friend, but it's FilmVerta, yeah? Good, close, okay. It's the largest German VOD portal for public libraries. This is cool, right? So basically, he's using the membership base of the public libraries and serving them a VOD portal. So I think he's got some very interesting views about how you do this, sort of a public space, but also doing basically commercial licensing for films, and he has a very interesting story. So please welcome Andreas Vogel. Oh, we're going to play this film.
Streaming with your library was the last sentence in German. Yeah, welcome. I'm very happy to be here and to present you the Film Friend. I see there are very different niche platforms, and the Film Friend platform is quite different. We are founder and operator of Film Friend, the streaming service for libraries. I would like to show you in the next few minutes or seconds with some slides. We started here in Berlin. I have the shortest way from all the people. We are 300 meters away from it, but we started in Berlin with the biggest library in Germany, of course, with the biggest city in Berlin. In July 2017, there are around 400,000 library card holders in Berlin. And it was very nice to have award already in December 2017. It was the Innovation Prize Berlin-Brandenburg. It's not only a prize for technical innovation, but especially for social innovation. And the social innovation aspect is for us very important. The important aspect, it means it is an easy access, and it's there are no social barriers and so on. And we awarded this in the end of 2017. And now, at the change from 19 to 20, there are already around 120 libraries using this service in Germany and in Switzerland. There are all big cities, but also very small towns in the countryside. This is very important for us because of the social innovation aspect. Yeah, niche. Maybe we are niche, really. But the niche, that you have a dimension, how big is this niche? We are a service for the German, Austria, Switzerland, so for the German-speaking countries. And there is a figure, more than 10% of this population are library card users. So in Germany, we speak about 11.3 million library card holders. In Switzerland, it's 2.4, and in Austria, 1.5. So it's quite relevant, we think. What are the main differences to compare to other streaming services? But first, the content. Obviously, the price and the audience. What's our content? Of course, the main content of our platform is European art house, but also art house films from other countries, Canada, Japan, US, but the most focus is European art house, but also mainstream things, but because we don't want to be very elitary or only intellectual platform, but the most things are European art house fiction films. Then another part are documentaries. It's growing very fast, this section. And of course, we had a lot of kids stuff, because kids are very important for the libraries. They are heavy users of the libraries, so we have to have a lot of kids stuff. So multiple content at one place for the libraries. Of course, a very important thing for us, and a difference to the other streaming platforms, is the price. It's free for the library card holders. We have the business model. We have a business contract with the libraries, but the service to use all the films are free for library card holders, and there are no copy restrictions. So it's a flat thing. This is, maybe you ask why this is important, but for used library users, it's very important news. No copy restrictions, but because they know if you have the book, I can't have it, and this is very different on our platform. No copy restrictions because we think film platform only works this way. The audience, the people are very film interested because they are used to use their library for a lot of films. They are big VOD, DVD libraries, so they are very film interested. They are more educated, the demographic data says. A lot of kids, I mentioned before, and slightly more women, also interesting fact. A short look at the filmfriend.de or filmfriend.ch. Perhaps you can do it later. I only want to mention that we have on the start side, similar start site as other streaming platforms, that we have the content on one place, movies, documentaries, kids, and you can choose on the first side which you're interested in. It's very important for us not to have only a photo of the DVD cover like it's in the libraries. We have a editorial, a quite big editorial staff and a curator staff, and the people in the libraries like to be more informed about the film. So there are a lot of metadata, a lot of content written to the films, and also if you like to have more information, there are the links to the EMDB or database or film portal or other places. This is the short advertising part of the presentation. We realized this with our own developed technical solution available as a white label VOD. So if you plan to do a own niche VOD, come to us. We can give you the technique. No, this is the first. Okay. That's it. Those are the four, some information because our film friend, and we are happy to able to present it to this audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andreas. So why don't you take a seat, and can I have Damien and Weerada come up as well? Do we have enough seats? No, I'll stay standing.
But 4 persons.
Oh, you bring a seat. Okay, good. I can stand if there's a problem. Yes? All right, good. Yes, we'll talk to the tech staff later, right, Peter?
Okay, thanks.
All right. So everyone get comfortably situated. Thank you. That was really interesting, Andreas. I'm going to start with the hard question first to all of you. It was interesting to hear, your different approaches, the different audiences you're trying to attract. Yeah. Let's start with a really big question. How do you compete with the big players? Because let's look at Netflix, for example. Netflix is out there. They started basically buying a lot of syndicated stuff, library stuff. They've now moved into commissioning. They're now doing all kinds of things. They're doing documentaries, they're doing films, they're doing kids. YouTube, free, lots of kids stuff. So Andreas, certainly that's a point for you because you say you have a lot of kids on your service. So how do you compete with the big guys? Damien, why don't you start us off? What do you do?
Yeah, thanks.
They're coming for you.
I also forgot to mention my pronouns are he, him, his. Our model assumes that you have a subscription to an Amazon, a Netflix, a Hulu, to any of these big streaming services, and especially Disney Plus coming to market and within 1 week having 10 million subscribers. I think at least the data for our segment, for the LGBTQ segment, proves that this content needs to be free. And this is why we've embraced the pivot from a subscription-only model to an AVOD and now even to a linear curated feed. Right. We have the opportunity here for us, at least, is that we're seeing premium CPMs when we're selling that ad inventory to some of those big advertisers that I mentioned, like Disney and Gilead and Lexus. And the reason why is because we hold the lock and key to the biggest amount of inventory for our segment. Right. I'm talking commercial pre-roll and mid-roll inventory. We're selling $35 to $50 CPMs and sometimes upwards of $100 and $110 CPMs pending targeting and time of year, because no one has that scale opportunity.
Right.
And the SVOD subscription side of our business sits there as kind of a linear, a legacy product, essentially, because we started with that and we still have subscribers, and folks who essentially become the super fan, like you would any dating app like a Grindr, a Her app, or any of these ones where essentially you are targeted a subscription to the premium side of the service because everyone uses the free side for a great period of time. Eventually they'll learn or want to pay for things because, again, the brand represents an identity.
So in a way, you've moved away from SVOD because of the big guys sort of saying, oh, we've got to not only be free, with ads, to make sure that we are out there and making sure we can get an audience, but also so it's as you say, you'll continue it, but it'll be a smaller part of the pie. When did that happen? A year ago? 2 years ago?
2 years ago. So it was on September 2018 that we pivoted from just being a single SVOD service to being a hybrid AVOD SVOD, and now we're pivoting again to the linear side of our business, the digital broadcast. Right. At least in the United States, what we're seeing is this big market share opportunity when you have Samsung Plus come to market. And Samsung TV Plus, for those who don't know, at least in the hotel we're staying at, they're all Samsung smart TVs.
Right.
So immediately when I turn on the television, the first thing that'll come up will Samsung TV. Well, they have their own cable operating system. That's the Samsung
virtual
TV.
cable.
A virtual cable, virtual cable operating system. 70 closed net channels that Samsung operates via their smart sets. And Samsung is the largest smart set manufacturer in the world. Right now, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, they'll sell over 50 million Samsung Smart TVs.
Amazing.
So they have scale just by virtue of being a technical
So it's like you
operator.
say, it's important what devices you're on. So Veerada, if I asked you this question, how do you compete with the big guys? Is it about, as Damien says, being more open? Because you started as a TVOD service, I think,
That's right.
transactional VOD. So how do you compete? How do you make sure that
I
people
actually want
notice
to
you?
start by saying this. You can be niche and global at the same time. That's fundamentally what we believe. I think niche is good in the way that you know your audience, something you're passionate, and global means you have a global outlook. How can you reach people around the world? So actually, they can coexist very well. So you're absolutely right. We started as a TVOD, that's a pay-per-view. But as Damien has also mentioned, there's been two very key movements in the industry. One is the industry is just moving away from TVOD. We saw iTunes announced they were closing down to focus on Apple TV, which is a subscription platform. And of course, we have many new global subscription platforms launching with Apple TV, Disney, Peacock from NBC Universal next year. So the TVOD is just an outdated model. And not to mention that actually around the world, for us actually, increasingly as we got more visitors from around the world, from Asia, Latin America, they want to see the films. They come to our site and say, I really want to see the film. Where can I watch free film? Oh, my mother doesn't have a credit card. It's true. How can I see your films? So actually new revenue models are new ways to allow the films to be seen legally first, and of course to monetize them is a key thing. So the answer to your question is that how do you compete with the global platform? First, I think you need to look into your DNA. Our DNA is that we connect the world through films. We're all about, helping people learn languages, interesting stories from around the world. So that was our DNA. That is something I think, every platform or business in general can use to differentiate. Play onto your strengths and multiply that by 100 times. And of course, embrace technology. Now we've developed some really, really cool technology. If you can't do it yourself, find a partner who can do it. There are ways. Nothing should stop you. And
that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Let's delve into that a little bit, because you said, listen to your DNA. What are you about? And then you've also had you've added this kind of edutainment or education layer. And you said to me when we were talking, whenever it was last night, you said, it's about the tools now that we can offer users to actually learn a language.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, because that's that you're really moving into another revenue stream and point of differentiation, correct?
Sure. So I think people are willing to pay more when they have a service mindset. The reality is this. All my friends I know have paid for a language course at some point, online, in person. But not everyone has paid for content. That's just the reality. But when they value it, it's education, it becomes a service mindset. It's still the same films, but people are willing to pay because they feel that they have a service, that they're learning something, or it's helping their life in some way. So I think thinking not as a one-off product, but your whole proposition, how you are a service, that's key. And the second thing of all is your route to market can expand. So obviously when we just had a TVOD, it was on FilmDoo. But now with our language learning edutainment platform and technology, we can also distribute to language schools, corporate language training programs. So suddenly the films have wider distribution channels, and even the technology itself can be licensed to other VOD platforms who's interested in using the language learning tools for their content. So
Another revenue stream as well.
yeah, so start with what you are. Be true to who you are, of course, but then look at your DNA, what the users are doing on your site, what they're consuming. I told you about our traffic, 80% were coming from language related, and expand from there.
So Andreas, when you look at this question, how do you stand out with the big guys? I mean, at the moment, Netflix does have a lot of films. You said the biggest part of your audience are kids. They're watching a lot of stuff for free on YouTube. Why would they choose your service, and how do you make sure they will, or that at least they know about it?
Well, because we have different films. But to be honest, I don't like the question really much with the competitors, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on. I think we compete mostly almost for the time of the time, because all the viewers of our platform think about hearing music, reading books, have a walk to the in the outside countryside. So there is not. It's a competitor, Netflix, of course, of Amazon, but on the first hand, we have other films, and we have two pluses. We have film lovers entering our platform and look film over there, and they can't find these films on Amazon, Netflix, and all these other platforms. And these films are good. They are not only the rest of they are very good films. So we have the film lovers, and this is our plus. And the other plus is that we have with the libraries real locations where the people come in, and there are real people talking to them and introduce the platform, show them the films, and so on. So there is a competition, of course, there's a competition, and we only serve the library card holders, but we compete mostly around the time with all the people. So it's not only Netflix, but it's also Spotify, for example.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk a little bit more about the technology. Now, Damien mentioned, doing targeted ads. You mentioned moving into kind of almost software as a service or services type stuff. How is technology helping you, let's say, be more competitive or to stand out or to do the things that you need to do? Damien, why don't you do a little bit more on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, technology for us has been over the 4 years of Pivot 3, the second time. And it's all data, right? It's kind of like what you were saying before. It's like know your audience, right? And the data has obviously told us that our segment, being Gen Z, millennial, as a core audience of who consumes our content, does not want to pay for things. And the more that we offer them for free, the more they consume and the greater scale we have. And really the monetization effort for us, again, is selling those ads on a global scale. Reverie exists in over 100 countries. You can literally pull out your phones right now and download the Reverie app and watch our content. But we're not filling the ad space here yet in Germany or Europe. You're just going to get our house ads because most of our sales, all of our sales have historically only been in the United States. As we move into programmatic, if we're talking about technology, which we will be launching before the end of this year, we'll able to start target and on an open market exchange, be able to sell those ads both here in Germany as well as other parts of the world. So that inventory is not just house ads that we're actually filling and monetizing that space. And I think understanding programmatic as an opportunity, when you're dealing with an AVOD platform on how you can scale that and really drill down into those advertisers and those SSPs, has a huge value proposition. We know the moment we flip that switch, we're going to almost triple our revenue overnight.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Weerada, when you look at that, I mean, you're not doing targeted advertising. No, you're basically
no.
a service, and
Yeah.
you're a subscription type service. When you look, go ahead.
TVOD, but we will move into subscription for the edutainment platform.
Right. Okay. So you're still doing the TVOD, but as you
Yes,
say,
yes.
a real move towards the subscription. Where else are you seeing technology starting to impact what you're able to do in terms of maybe attracting audiences or discoverability? I mean, yesterday we had a wonderful presentation from the lady from France Television about AI. Remember, and search and that kind of things. How do you see tech as helping you stand out?
Very much, actually, because fundamentally, every day we have more and more films and content. The cost of producing content is going down. Quality is a subjective topic, but the point is that curation will be the future, right? How can you bring content that is relevant for you easily, fastly, both for the platforms, how can they quickly curate, program that as well, and obviously reach up to the audience. So there are many interesting technologies coming, automated video image recognition, voice to text recognition. So I think allowing to do quick processing operations, but also to then push that content to whether it's to the right ad providers or the right audience, that will be key. And also, like I said, how can technology make that experience value added? So for example, our education tool is giving that education service, but there could be perhaps other tools that helps as a service or as an experience for your viewers.
Right. Andreas, when you look at this, what do you see? I mean, it's interesting. You mentioned curation as being really important. And you actually showed a couple of slides about how your mosaic works and how your navigation starts to work. Do you see that as a key differentiator? Are you thinking about how to change or upgrade or maybe put AI into your curation?
I think the curator thing is very important for us, and the additional board is very important for us because of our audience. Yeah? But the technique is quite important, of course, for the service. But on a very basic level, for the people watching us, is important that if you press the button, the film has to run. Yeah? And this works quite well. The biggest problem with our customer is that their library card is not valid any longer. So this is a basic technical problem. Yeah.
I love it.
Not
So
on
they
this,
go
yeah.
in and you say, sorry, your library card's expired.
So,
So then they have to go back to the library.
Yeah.
Oh my
so, the other basic technical thing is that we work with public libraries, and the public libraries have mostly very old browsers, and the browsers are not able to show the films. So, sorry about that, but our problems are quite low of the technical side. Yeah.
If I can just add one more point to this, I think, and just across the board, you're seeing this technology is a commodity that's going to be bought and sold, whether you're developing or you're using a SaaS tech, platform. And for us, at least, we've never invested in building our own technology. We've always used SaaS, service as a software, because we knew the way that consumption would move is going to be dictated by how quickly the bigger platforms are coming to market or switching or shifting the way in which it, is driving consumerism, right? So, like, for instance, VOD not being a thing anymore. Sorry, I got it already.
You got one, okay.
VOD not being,
Don't choke.
VOD not being a thing anymore, and like, for instance, like the Pluto TVs of the world, and having the linear streaming or curated playlists or curated live feeds, whatever you want to call it, have great scale in terms of always-on environments and being able to have like 98% completion on ad units and views, or seeing 50,000 to 70,000 daily impressions per channel, and that's going to constantly evolve and change. We're never going to stop seeing that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Is there questions from the audience for these people about VOD services? Or here's one in the front, Peter. Where's my microphone person? There we go. He's coming. And is there another one that we can queue up? There's one and a hand back there. So we've got this fellow down here. Put your hand up so we can see you again, sir. There you go. Second row, right behind AC. Yep. And then the other one is up there on the right, Peter, just so you know, he's up there.
In that vein of curation or search or content discovery, personalized search, we had a ton of content, all of you, lots and lots of stuff. And time is the friend and the enemy. So how do you help people navigate that huge mass of content that you've got, and optimize the experience by making sure that what you're giving to each person is in line with their preferences? Obviously, for your education platform, the idea of matching the language level of films is an excellent way to do that. But there's, I mean, with all the stuff that you've got, or you've got all the other films that you've got, the thousands of films, how do you find anything?
Yeah. Thank you for the question, because we have a lot of very good films, but how to find them, the films, yeah? So we build collections and presented it to our visitors, to our spectators, a collection with one subject. And when the subject, you can put them together, and then you recognize big landscape of one subject. So with the collection, it works very well. For example, for some days we have 30 years of the breaking down the wall, yeah, and we have a collection about this. So you can do some very well-known films to this subject, and you can put some films you never know about this subject together, and so you have the content recognition.
It's what I call active curation in a way. I mean,
Yeah,
there's another site which maybe people know called Mubi, M-U-B-I. They do that kind of active curation. I think they curate every 30 days. They sort of surface a new thing that they think their members might be interested in seeing. So it's about active curation, I think. But do you all have some other?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, search and discovery is always an issue for us. It isn't so much because we're usually the only LGBTQ option. We're usually first to market and mover and shaker in most of these environments and spaces, or we have an exclusivity to be the only LGBTQ provider in the space, really kind of owning and targeting the segment. So again, just
because you've done that, actually. You've made some exclusive deals on some virtual cable operators. So he goes in and he says, hey, man, you want our service? Exclusive for what, 2 years?
Yeah, for a period of 1 to 2 years.
So that's smart, because they're trying to raise the profile.
Raising the profile, and then obviously continue to keep the bar high in terms of the content. We do have original content, which is about 40% more searched and more watched than any of our back catalog content.
That's interesting.
And that is really a kind of where we see ourselves going. We're a channel, we're a network. We're like Vice or Cheddar or Shudder or any of these kind of millennial or Gen Z kind of new digital cable networks, but in the virtual spaces. But we're just targeting the LGBTQ kind of segment here.
And are you finding it's also about the metadata tags? Because, you know, people will search for, I guess, queer or LGBT or, but I mean, is there other terms they need to be searching for? Because in a way, as you said in your presentation, it's not just about getting to people who identify,
Yes.
but maybe people who just want to expand their horizons or maybe don't identify. That are allies or who are interested.
Yeah, a great example is we broadcast the GLAAD presidential LGBTQ forum, which you saw some clips with Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren. We had all the candidates, with the exception of Bernie Sanders, who showed up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and we live stream it. And that, for instance, was watched historically more by non-LGBTQ audiences, even though the candidates were talking to LGBTQ issues and topics, right? And it's because of the fact that politics, at least in the United States, is the #1 topic. If anyone's been watching CNN today, there's all the investigations going on, which I couldn't stop watching on my Samsung Smart Set in my hotel room as I was falling asleep last night. But again, regardless of the topic, there is certain things that are just going to matter to other people who are outside of the community. And so by virtue of having that type of content on our service, people will watch and they'll engage.
How about you?
Actually, the interesting thing I want to say is that in terms of search and curation, align yourself with what the big players are doing. We have a really cool SEO technology, and that's how we've driven, I'd say, 85% of our traffic, just by search. By the way, we've never done paid ads on Facebook or Google. We've all been organic, 100%
So it's all been SEO.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you a
Which
tip.
is search engine optimization. People know that, right?
I'm going to give you a tip, and I hope you can use it in your lives, your business, is Google ranks companies that have more and more pages, but authoritative. So, we are also a film database. So actually, we provide a lot of film information for films we don't sell, like people can come and watch the trailer and read reviews and et cetera. So we're actually an IMDb for foreign language films. So, with a nice poster, trailers in English. But that way, you get prioritized quite a lot. So when you do SEO very well, and in-house SEO is always great because you know your data, et cetera, you can get very high ranking. So when people are searching, a Japanese film, their first port is Google, right? before they even know your platform. So they use Google, and then they're going to come up and see. So if you type watch English films or English films online on Google, we're actually normally number 1 or number 2 in the world. So that's how people come. So immediately you get that first filter for the audience who's interested. And of course, within your own platform, you have search, you have collections, you have editorial. Now, I'm a big, big believer that technology must coexist with human curation and editorial. It's not one or the other, it's both. So technology is the first filter, but actually it's the human editorial that still helps creating promotion.
Right.
And the other thing that's quite interesting is that the metadata tag on its own, it doesn't mean much. It's actually the human interpretation of it. So for example, what we found is that how people want to watch film is how. So this has been very interesting feedback. I'm looking for a film I can watch with my boyfriend. I'm looking for a film I can watch with my children.
So the context almost. Who they want to watch it with.
Yeah, so actually that kind of sentiment will be useful going forward. Not just like, okay, this is another horror.
Yeah.
But what type of horror, right?
The specific genre, I think, like, just to echo off what you're saying, it's the need state.
Yeah.
Am I depressed today? Do I want to see more dramas? Am I happy and stoned because I'm smoking a lot of weed? I'm from California. I can't deny it.
Yes, it's legal in California.
It's legal, right? Do I want to see more comedy, right? And I think through AI technology, those need states, as we define them as a data point, will eventually solve the problem of curation and discovery.
Cool. Now we have one last question here.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentations. One question is, like, with regard to licensing, because you're targeting partly a global audience, like, what issues do you run into when you're licensing films? Because my understanding is, like, the traditional distribution, you often have a lot of exclusivity and geographic focus. And the second question would be if all of you could detail a little bit more about your business model, like how much of your budget goes into licensing versus marketing versus curating content and quality checking films. Thank you.
Okay, so the licensing question, I guess, is probably going to be, well, all of you can answer that, but
We were just having this debate, like, literally, it's so funny, like an hour ago.
I mean, the thing is that, the Netflixes of the world are pushing up costs because they're licensing stuff too. So have you run into that?
No, actually,
No.
you're wrong. They're
I'm wrong.
licensing
Good.
less. They're licensing
They're
less.
licensing less.
They're
Great.
they're
'Cause they're
focused on
doing
building their
originals.
own product,
Good.
right? Because then they can own the rights globally. So for us, at least, it's a complete land grab for LGBTQ content that has 0 platforms outside of YouTube to be able to distribute on. So for us, at least, our model is all VOD, SVOD, AVOD, TVOD, and virtual cable. And we take global rights to about 80 to 90% of our content.
Wow.
And when available. Obviously, look, if you're an independent filmmaker, I'm sorry, you cannot work the same traditional model anymore. That model is dead, dying, and done, right? So when you go to MIPCOM, when you go to NAPI, when you go to these markets, you're not going to be selling your content the same way the traditional guys and distributors used to be. You should be focusing on as many different platforms as I can self-distribute to, whether it's through FilmDoo or FilmHub or these other platforms, right? Where I can get my content seen and exposed non-exclusively in as many different environments and then collect as many checks as possible. Because long gone are the days where you have a 4-wall, theatrical release or you have Netflix or Amazon pick you up as an original. Like that is a pie in the sky dream that only happens for things that are going to like Tribeca and Sundance, right? Like so now you have to rethink in terms of the modeling and how you're going to be able to actively monetize your content because there's thousands of us out here, right? There's literally almost 10,000 VOD services in the Apple TV store alone. Wow. Right? And that's just in the last 4 years since they introduced tvOS. And you can't even imagine Roku, which has been way longer than tvOS has. Right. And then to answer kind of the second question, what's our model? 95% of our business is ad supported. So where we put a lot of our dollars and cents is either in paid advertising through Facebook. We're kind of a little bit opposite of what she's doing, Facebook and Instagram and organic search and discovery, more so than anything, SEO and app SEO. But what we're doing is we're reinvesting into original content or at least more exclusive rights and being able to help those filmmakers finish the product and then release it on our channel as an original, non-exclusively.
And the 40% you're doing now of originals, is that going to grow, or is that?
Yes, the intention is to grow that because more people come to us to watch our original
Got it.
content than they come to watch our back catalog.
So you want to go next, Andreas, and then we'll come?
Yeah, there was a big question with license, I think, business model and marketing. Yeah, of course, license is quite hard, is a challenge to get the license. But for us, it's a little bit better because we are not on the main road, and we are a little bit beside of this. So it's possible to get the license from attractive content for our platforms, so this works. The marketing, marketing costs money, so this is a challenge number 2, where we do a lot of social media, and we have the plus that we have the local I already mentioned, where they are really location with the public libraries, so there are people doing marketing for us.
Right, there are public signs in the public libraries. Do you do SEO? Do you do search engine optimization?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do that too, okay.
Yeah, and some ads, of course, but mostly social media, and it works. And business model is we have the contract with the library, and it is it fits to the usage, and if the usage going high in the library, there are steps that the contract is more worthy.
Right, so they pay based on usage, and you change that every year depending on how much usage that library is doing.
Yeah.
Cool, and then also you white label your technology as well, which is a revenue stream.
Our own technology, that is good, yeah. We use it for our own, of course, and
but you're
there
white
are
labeling.
3 more players using it in the next year. So
Okay, well, there you go,
this is
another
revenue stream, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Veerada.
Yes, I also want to say that the rights acquisition model is changing, and I completely iterate with what Damien said. Netflix is not picking up more film. In fact, the problem is widening. So I think a few years ago, you're right, Netflix had acquired more foreign language film catalog, but time and time again now, I hear more and more, they are now, I think they only limit to 30 films like from Sundance a year, normally 6-figure, and that's it, no data, anything either. But and then they're going more into their own series, because of course that's user engagement, and their own content, because it's global, right? So the gap is widening, and from the very beginning, FilmDoo has always been about non-exclusive. We set out to be non-exclusive, because the aim is that to get as many people to see your films as much as possible, as many platforms, and we're here to help you. So I think one thing that was quite unique is that we have a very interesting licensing model, and that's why we've been able to pick up a lot of films, is that we only require 1 month notice to change the geography location. So the idea behind FilmDoo is, the films have played at festivals, you might have done a few cinema, your film is 2 years and older, now what? The producer's moving to the next film, the sales has moved on to the next film, even you're busy. And film is just sitting. Nothing's more sad than so much money, normally state funding as well, gets into your film, years of your life, and no one can see this film. So what we do is we said, you know what, okay, Poland you have sold, Hungary you have sold, what's left, give it to us. And then if you do a deal later with Germany, all right, you just give us 1 month notice and we will lock it off. So we only require 1 month notice. So I think working along the rights that the filmmakers or film companies have, rather than against it, works to our benefit.
And the business model.
Yeah, so business model is we started as TVOD, but actually we're expanding into subscription. And when we started with TVOD, we did it because it was revenue share and it was easier. But it was definitely harder to go to AVOD and SVOD. But we can see the industry is changing. Film companies are changing. Filmmakers are becoming more forward-thinking. So they realize that revenue share can work across different types of business models: B2B licensing, educational licensing, subscription, AVOD. So that is changing, and especially for older back catalog films, I think revenue share could be the way forward as well.
I think this has been fascinating. I hope you all got a lot out of this. We've certainly learned about how VOD is changing. What is niche VOD? How do you stand out? We've learned a little bit of insight into what Netflix is thinking, which is always interesting. And in terms of what are your revenue models based on, and how do you think about different bits of it? Whether it's advertising, whether it's services, whether it's using library membership. So I think it's been a very fascinating session. Will you please join me in thanking our speakers, Veerada, Damien, and Andreas.
Thank you.